the first trumpet, second trumpet, third trumpet, fourth trumpet, fifth trumpet, isn't it? Though it had a lot of clauses only to describe the locusts. Yeah? So we have to go on all those descriptions of the clauses that were the Christians which we said were the locusts. They had all those descriptions, isn't it? Now today we are going to continue with the sixth trumpet, probably trumpet. But let me tell you one, there is a lot of information in between those trumpets in that you cannot just quench in one lesson. So basically, I've heard so many commentaries and people do not know where to start with the seals and where to start with the trumpets. Some say because the seventh seal finishes and then there is a beginning of the trumpets, so they put the trumpets in future, which is irrational, because you should bear in mind that Christ went into the Holy of Holies, and what was given him? A book with how many? 7 seals. And why did he go into the Holy of Holies? To investigate, for investigation of all the humans who dwelt on earth. So this book containing 7 seals, it is sealed 7 seals, isn't it? Why 7? I told you in Acts of the Apostles 5:85, it says this number 7 is complete. So it's complete humankind from the beginning of the world to the end. Now, when he opened the first seal, what we actually hear, what happened, what transpired in this first seal is the judgments which occurred to those who did not believe, isn't it? And those who did believe, what happened to them? And these are the trumpets. So each seal, when it is opened, is in corresponding order, has the first trumpet. The second seal, the second trumpet. Likewise, as he is open, he cannot mention the 2 topics in one. He has to make sure he goes round with the trumpets first, with the seals first, and then he starts with the trumpets next. So these are 2 subjects, isn't it? But all running in conjunction. Yeah. So if you futurize the trumpets after the seals, then you will find that you are making a wrong time, because the 7th trumpet should be in accordance with the 7th seal. Now, to support my statement, let's go to 9 MR, manuscript release, 7, first paragraph.
The book,
right,
where the 7 seals, contains the history of the world.
Is it what Sister White is telling us?
Yes.
The book of the 7 seals, contains the what?
The history.
So if you are starting, some do start with the church at Ephesus, and then they say the first seal starts from there. It's not the earth history. It should be the whole history from Adam to the end. You cannot start in the middle. That's why you need the spirit of prophecy to support your basis, where you are basing your evidence. You understand?
Yes.
The evidence is clear in the spirit of prophecy. It's the whole earth history. So you can't start in the middle of the history. You have to start at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, this is how you have to study the seals. You can't study the seals starting in the beginning. No. I know some inspired writers had written that, but you have to go back to the spirit of prophecy and see where Sister White starts the seals. Yeah? And what? Right?
The book with the 7 seals contains the history of the world.
Right.
And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within on the backside, sealed with 7 seals.
You see the 7 seals. When you see the 7 seals, you know it's beginning at the beginning of the world to the end of the world.
Amen.
If you begin anyhow, then you got it wrong. You have to get it right from the spirit of prophecy. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?
Right.
And no one in heaven, nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon.
Right. Let's read on second paragraph. There.
In his open hand,
right,
lay the book,
right,
the roll of the history of God's providence, the prophetic history of nations and the church.
The prophetic history of nations and church. That's why when you find the first seal, it's telling us about the world history. Yes. What was in the world? Purity. Yes. A white horse. Purity. Who was there? Adam. Given a bow. Given Eve. Isn't it? Yes. What was their message? Multiply and replenish the earth. So if you start somewhere, you miss the point. Yes. You miss the point. And I've seen some people starting from the church of Ephesus. You got it wrong. Go back to the beginning of the world. That's what Sister White says. Let's get it. Let's not have pride of opinion. Let's get it as a study. And God wants us to learn something from these important truths. Otherwise, that's the whole book of Revelation. What was it? It's this book with 7 seals. And what transpired in between each seal are the trumpets. So the trumpets also should cover the beginning of the world history to the end of the world. Otherwise, you get it wrong. That's why this book is the only book which was given a blessing. Do not add in Revelation 22. Whoever will add or whoever will subtract will never inherit the kingdom. That's what we were warned. Because if you add, the book, we have the SOP already. The voice of prophets is there as a people to show us where we go, how to tackle a subject. We have to go to the spirit of prophets, telling us where to start with the cells. So don't add, don't subtract. Because if you start in the middle, Church of Ephesus, you have subtracted the whole other history. The whole world history. You are starting from the New Testament. That's getting it wrong. Don't add. Don't subtract. Now, read on.
There in his open hand,
right,
lay the book, the roll of the history of God's providence, the prophetic history of nations and the church. Herein was contained the divine utterances, his authority, his commandments, his laws, the whole symbolic counsel of the eternal, and the history of all ruling powers in the nations. In symbolic language,
right,
was contained in that roll the influence of every nation,
right,
tongue, and the people from the beginning of earth's history to its close.
Right. So don't subtract. Ati bvumewo zvese zvakaita n'anga dzemuna Faro dzakabvuma kuti izvi zvinhu izvi zvikaizvi. N'anga dzekunebhukadhineza dzakabvuma kuti izvi zvinhu izvi. Hope dzaNebhukadhineza idzi hadziitwi nemunhu wese idzi. Zinongoitwa nemunhu ane mweya wani waMwari. Hati bvumewo sezvakaitwawo pan'anga dziya dziri better. At least they acknowledge. Hakuna ku dance around with the book. And dance around with the book, usina basis from the spirit of prophecy. The spirit of prophecy should back you up. No. Word of the Bible was written uninspired. It was written from God's people who were inspired. And the one who should interpret it should also be inspired. Don't get it wrong. Kana why butter wrong? Just admit and say, they butter wrong, and correct it before the kingdom starts. Because the kingdom will start. You understand? We have to learn from each other. Instead of coming up with somebody was telling me that you take the trumpets literal. You take the hell mingled with the blood and with the fire. Those 3 components cannot be together. They burn each other and melt. And you take it that they are coming to the world and destroying the world when they melt in the air there. So You are taking something literal, which is not supposed to be literal. And the second seal, we saw a mountain with fire, which goes in the sea. You take it literally. A mountain going with the fire in the sea, it will dry the whole sea. If it's got fire, isn't it? Or the sea will just quench the fire. So you are taking literal something which is symbolic. It's not natural to see a mountain with fire moving. You think it's moving. So the seals, the trumpets, they are symbols. This is what Sister was saying. God used symbols. You understand? God used the symbols to explain his point. And all those who are going to be translated will understand the message. We will understand the seals and the trumpets. So today, we're going on the 6th trumpet. Let's go. Let's go. If something is being taught and it goes against what you knew, take pains to investigate. Take pains to investigate. And be like the magicians in the time of Nebuchadnezzar when they were called together with Daniel. They admitted we cannot interpret the dream, isn't it? They really admitted we can't interpret this dream. And Nebuchadnezzar was going to kill them if Daniel wasn't there. There's always somebody with the right answer. There's always somebody with the, they all came. They all came with their things, the magicians. They all came to interpret the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. But I give them a credit because they said with their mouth, no one can interpret this except one who has been inspired by God. They did so with Moses. Moses came with his rod and it turned into a snake, big snake. And what did the magicians do? They also threw their sticks and they became what? Snakes. But the interesting thing is Moses' rod swallowed all of them. If you find your prophecies being swallowed, take pains to read and compare scripture to scripture, verse to this SOP, and see whether what you are saying is supported by the SOP. Don't just state seals anyway. Sister White says it's the worldly history. And when Christ went into the Holy of Holies, into the Holy of Holies, it's 1844. This was future to John. John, about 1896, was raised with this prophet, isn't it? And he was told, you will be given what is soon to what? To happen. The main reason of Revelation was not only to tell us about the history that we already know. Of course, as a basis, God starts from the beginning. And we are agreeing with him that the history occurred. This really occurred. The movement actually went out of Egypt. Yes, we heard that. They went to captivity. Yes, we heard that. But the main aim of Revelation is to show us what is coming in future. Yes. So you will miss the future point. If you start anyhow, you miss the future point. Right? The main reason was for us to know. Each prophecy, when it is disclosed, you should see why God has given it. Yeah, it starts with the history to get your mind set. And you are agreeing, yes, this happened. Yes, people went to Babylonian captivity. Yes. And next, there was a reformation. Yes. And 1844, yes, he went into the Holy of Holies. Yes. And next, yes, Sister White was the one to start the Living Church. Yes. And next, what happened? Next, what happened? That's where you are being led by that prophecy. So that is when you are getting it right. When you don't get it right, that's why people are so full of arguments, because they don't get it right. You have to read the prophecy in conjunction with the SOP. That should support it. Don't anyhow of private interpretation. No. The spirit of prophecy should actually say. Should actually say what you are saying. You unlock a symbol with another verse. Scripture should unlock it. Don't unlock with your thoughts. Don't use your thoughts. Yeah?
Yes.
Hey, this was what, this empire, this whatever. We have to find a verse which is talking about what you are talking about. If there is no verse, you rather leave it like that until we find a verse to unlock it. So people have been, have been so misled with these private interpreters who do things just to make sure they, like the magicians in the time of Moses and the magicians in the time of Daniel. They all, pegged their bags wanting to interpret the dream. But alas, that was, their head was gone. if Daniel didn't come into, to interpret, it's God who gave Daniel the interpretation. The dream plus the interpretation. Because some people are used to someone saying, I've dreamt of this, and then you come and say, it means this and that, isn't it? Yes. But now, things changed. God wanted the dream and the interpretation, both. And the Nebuchadnezzar was full of the power of God. I said, you are used to lying. Now today you get it wrong. I need the dream. I need the dream and the interpretation. And they all shook their head. No one can get the dream from your head. No one. Only the one inspired by God. Same with the prophets. No one will get it right unless inspired by God. So many people come and, I'm also inspired. God just not inspired like grains of maize. Like that. You understand? You think God does that? God doesn't. He always works through a human being.
Yes.
And when the human being works, it will be shown to those who are inspired also. They will hear the voice of God. He says, my sheep knoweth the voice of God. Amen. But of course, plenty don't know the voice of God. But God's sheep will know. Only God's sheep will know. Amen. If you are not God's sheep, so you can say what you want. The sheep are there, the goats are there, isn't it? If the goat just bypasses, nobody's bothered about the goat. But the sheep will know. Amen. They will know the voice. Same as the prophets. So many. Someone said Revelation. I was watching somebody trying to preach about Daniel. So I said, let me hear what others have in store, also. He put the pictures right of the lion, bear, the leopard, everything. I said, that's fine. That's Daniel 7. Then he copied and pasted all the verses. No interpretation. Hey. We need an interpreter there. We need an interpreter there. It's got to be somebody inspired. Go back to history. You find people try to inspire these things. To interpret them. But only when you are inspired, you will interpret. You will interpret only when you are inspired. It was Daniel in the time of Daniel. It was Moses in the time of Moses. It was Joseph in the time of Joseph. It was Jacob in the time of Jacob. Even the twin brother was not inspired. Esau wasn't. It doesn't matter whether it's the same house. If someone is inspired, you are not all inspired. It's one. It's always one, isn't it? So let's get it right. Let's start from the sixth trumpet and enjoy prophecy. Revelation 9, verse 13.
Verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
And the sixth angel sounded.
Yeah.
And I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which is the trumpet, loose the four angels which abound in the great river Euphrates.
Right.
And the four angels...
No. Just leave it there. There are all corners of interpretation in that verse. Points of interpretation that we will enjoy. The sixth angel sounded, yeah? And I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar. That needs interpretation. Or that needs explaining. Where was the golden altar? In the sanctuary. You see the sanctuary? Now, the golden altar was in the holy place. It had 3 compartments. The outer court, the holy place, and the most holy. Why God has said, I heard the voice. Where did the voice come from? From these 3 compartments? No. From one of the compartments. Which compartment had the golden altar? The holy place. Which is in the middle. Those who know the sanctuary. Go back to your sanctuary message. And you know that there was an outer court, there was a holy place, and there was a most holy place. Now, the voice is coming from the 4 horns of the golden altar in the holy place. What does that show you? We are talking, who is talking here? It's John from AD 96. Had Christ gone into the Holy of Holies? So it's giving us a clue that it was before the time when Christ went into the Holy of Holies. Because the voice, if he's in the Holy of Holies, the voice should come from the most holy, not from the 4 horns.
No.
True.
Huh?
Yes.
So that's a clue being given by the verse. The voice is coming from the 4 horns. And where are the 4 horns of the golden altar? In the holy place. And what does it show you and me? That Christ had not yet entered the Holy of Holies. So it's before the time of the judgment scene. Even after John, AD 96. But before. So where is the 6th trumpet starting from? We saw the 5th trumpet, a star coming.
Yes.
And this star, which fell, yeah? We saw that it was the coming of Christ for the first time. You understand?
Yes.
And then he has established the early Christian church where John is also a member. And in 1896, John is seeing a voice coming from the 4 horns. Is seeing this voice coming, what time? Before Christ entered the Holy of Holies. So where is the 6th trumpet starting from? You understand now?
Yes.
These are clues we are given by the verses. Revelation is given with these clues that give you, if you are inspired, wisdom from God will tell you where these ones are in the holy place. Because, of course, you should be knowing the sanctuary service. If you go on to Revelation before knowing the sanctuary service, what are you doing to yourself? And I have seen people going to the New Testament without even knowing the Old. You have to understand from the Old Testament. From the Old Testament, you know the sanctuary service. Yeah? And Moses was told to build that sanctuary according to the pattern in heaven. And what was the pattern in heaven? The holy place. 4 horns are from the golden altar. Where was the golden altar? In the holy place, not in the Holy of Holies. When did Christ enter the Holy of Holies? 1844. That incident where William Miller thought it was the coming of Christ on earth was Christ entering the Holy of Holies. We know that as a fundamental belief.
Amen.
Yeah?
Yes.
And then the voice is coming from the 4 horns. If Christ had entered the Holy of Holies in 1844, the voice would come from the Most Holy.
Yes.
Yeah? That's a clue. That's a clue.
Yes.
Yeah? Read again. It's saying.
Saying to the 6th angel,
Yeah?
which had the trumpet,
Right?
loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates.
Right. So now we have to know what happened. What happened to the church which was left by Christ in 1896. Is John talking, about what was happening, isn't it? In 1896, this church had not been invaded by Constantine yet. So the going of the church into captivity, was still future to John. The Dark Ages was still future to John. Now, he is now being inspired. The angel is being inspired. Loose the 4 angels bound by the river. You have to know first what is pertaining to this river Euphrates. This river Euphrates, both sides, left and right, was where you find Babylon. They were getting water from the river Euphrates. And which country was that? Babylon. And in this period, we do not have a country called Babylon. No. But what is it pertaining to now? We have modern Babylonian activities. Yes. We have people, we have now, so for us to know, let me give you loose the 4 angels, that are bound by the river Euphrates. One thing you should understand, now we have identified what is in river Euphrates. Around it is Babylonian. Now, we should see that these are now modern conditions, similar to what Babylon was. We have seen from the type, the Israelites as a church, they went to Babylon. We want to know why they went into Babylon. So those conditions, if they are there in our time, then it means we have what is called the river, Euphrates, which was future to John. And we have what is called modern Babylon as an antitype to ancient Babylon. To know the reason why they were taken captive into Babylon, right? These are God's people, isn't it? Yes. And you tell me that where there is no type, there is no truth. Is there any type that the church went into Babylon? Yes. In the ancient time? Yes. Is there a truth that the church went into Babylon in future? Yes. Is it? Yes. Where there is no type, there is no truth. Because if you are talking about Babylon, you understand? The world already is in Babylon. So if you are saying now, the people of God have gone into Babylon, it's something worth speaking of, isn't it? Because you cannot be speaking of someone who was already in Babylon. You speak of somebody who was not in Babylon, who now has gone to Babylon. That's why William Miller told those 4 churches that you are also, Babylon is fallen. You have fallen like the church they were reforming against, isn't it? You wouldn't have gone to the church which was already in Babylon and say you are fallen. No. If someone who is falling is someone who had reformed, but also had joined the person who he is running away from. You understand? Now, the Israelite movement went into Babylon. Let's find it from the scriptures in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 19 to 20.
Verse 19. Because they have not hearkened to my words, said the Lord, which I sent unto them by my servants, the prophets, rising up early and sending them. But you would not hear, said the Lord.
You see why somebody goes into Babylon? Yeah. Did not hearken to the word of God. That's his church. The people he had led out of Egypt, the precious people, they did not hearken to his voice. Isn't it? And, right, verse 20.
Verse 20. Hear ye therefore the word of the Lord. O ye of the captivity, whom I have sent from Jerusalem to Babylon.
He sent them from Jerusalem to Babylon. Why? They did not. Let's hear exactly what they did not do. First Chronicles. Second Chronicles. Chapter 36, verse 20. Second Chronicles 36, verse 20. Yeah?
Verse 20.
Yes.
And them that had escaped from the sword carried ye away to Babylon,
Right?
where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia,
Right?
to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah,
Yeah?
until the land had enjoyed her Sabbath.
What had happened? The land was not enjoying its Sabbath. You see what Sabbath? The 7-day Sabbath, the Sabbath of the feasts, all that they were not. They were told. They were even sabbaticals after 25 years. Sabbaticals. The land wasn't enjoying its Sabbath because they went on. Yeah, well, they went on even on the Sabbath, 7-day Sabbath. They went on profaning the Sabbath. They went on not keeping the feasts. They went. So because of that, God sent them to Babylon. You see why God sends people to Babylon, modern Babylon, is because of the Sabbath. It's because of the feasts. Because God's feasts are binding. God's Sabbaths are binding. If you do not keep them, you go into Babylon. That's now spiritual Babylon. Now we are seeing future to John on the 6th trumpet. Go back to the 6th trumpet.
Verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 9, verse 18.
Yeah?
And the 6th angel sounded,
Yeah?
and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates.
There were 4 angels. 1, 2, 3. They were bound to the river Euphrates. And we have identified that river Euphrates was surrounded by Babylon. So, future to John, we saw the church going into Babylonian captivity, which was the Dark Ages. Yeah? Where no Sabbaths. Yeah? No law of God was kept. Yeah? Actually, times were changed, isn't it? Times and laws were changed. In Daniel 7, verse 25, isn't it? That was future to John. Yeah? Now we are told how then. That's why the voice is coming from the 4 horns outside the Holy of Holies, but in the time of the holy place, isn't it? This voice shows that it was before 1844. And we have been warned by Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 to 14. You remember? When he says, unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary be cleansed. It's still the same mouth to say, loosen now.
Amen.
Start putting back, start putting the religious things that have been trampled by the beast back to the people. Yeah? That in itself is to loosen the angels bound in the river Euphrates. Now we will see how they loosen, because next verse, what does it say?
Verse 15.
Yes?
And the 4 angels were loosed,
Right?
which were prepared
Right?
an hour,
And
and a day,
and day,
and a month,
Right?
and a year,
All
for
those.
to slay the third part of man.
they were prepared to slay the third part of men. Now, these angels, they did not all loosen at once. Yeah? They loosened at an hour. Yes. Let's see. Did we have a message coming at an hour? Yes. Let's go to Revelation 14, verse 7. What does it say?
Verse 7. Saying with a loud voice, fear God,
Right?
and give glory to him,
Uh-huh.
for the hour of his judgment is come.
Who preached that message? William Miller. What was he preaching to do? To loosen. You understand? Yes. The 4 angels, one of them is at an hour. The other one at a day. The other one at a month. The other one?
At a year.
Now we are on at an hour. It's William Miller. Was he used to take back the church out of Babylonian captivity? At an hour. For the hour of his is come. This angel was listened at the message of the hour of the judgment.
Yes.
And what else? Yeah?
And worship him.
Uh-huh.
That meant heaven.
No. The next angel. So it was in 1833, William Miller was preaching, was now loosening these 4 angels bound by the river Euphrates. Uh-huh.
And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour.
Hour? We have seen is William Miller. Now, and a day. Right, let's see a day. Let's go to Malachi chapter 4, verse 5.
Verse 5.
Uh-huh.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet.
Yeah?
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Yes.
Do we have Elijah's message coming in future to John?
Yes.
What is it to loosen? To loosen the 4 angels bound by the river Euphrates. To take us out of Babylon. You understand? Now, if we have a message of Elijah, for the day of the Lord is about to come.
Yeah.
Now, what is the message of Elijah? Verse 4. Uh-huh.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet.
Yeah?
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
You see? Uh-huh.
Verse 4.
Eh.
Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant.
Right?
Which I commanded
Unto
you
Horeb.
in Horeb.
Yes.
All Israel with the statutes and the judgments.
The particular laws that Elijah has to bring, because how many laws came on Mount Sinai? Go to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. How many laws came on Mount Sinai? We had 4 laws coming, isn't it?
Verse 13.
That's what Moses was given on Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb. Uh-huh.
Verse 13.
13.
Thou camest down
Yeah.
also upon Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
And speakest with them from heaven.
Right?
And gavest them
Eh.
right judgments.
1,
And true laws.
2.
Good statutes.
Right.
And commandments.
What are statutes? Feasts. He was given on Mount Sinai. True laws, commandments, and judgments. Now, what were we believing so far when we left Babylon? Because we are loosened from Babylon, isn't it? Yes. William Miller came and left people still keeping Sunday, first day, isn't it? And Sister White came and left people now believing on Sabbath. All this is loosening from the river Euphrates. Now we have Elijah's message coming, and Elijah's message is now to make sure the 2 laws we were keeping, which were testimonies and commandments, we were keeping, isn't it? Yes. But there are 2 which we did not take from Nehemiah 9, verse 13. Statutes and judgment. And then we have Malachi 4, verse 4, to define what is Elijah's message. It is remember ye the law of Moses, of the statutes and judgments, to loosen the river, to loosen the river Euphrates, bound by Babylon. Yes. So if you refuse the statutes and judgments, you remain Babylon.
Yes.
Yes.
You have not been loosened. Huh? It's there in prophecy. That's why you should learn the symbols of prophecy to understand. Don't take them as it they are. Sister White told us, she says God wrote all those symbols for those who are supposed to be saved. Yeah? And they are supposed to be loosened from Babylon. So it means if you do not want to keep them, you're still in Babylon. William Miller, at an hour, for the hour of the judgment is come. Fear God, give glory. That was the first angel's message, isn't it? Loosening the river Euphrates. And then we have now the day which is the day of vengeance, isn't it? Yeah? And which has been announced by Isaiah as a day of vengeance. And Isaiah also, 63, is preaching also the year of my redeemed. When we are loosened, what is remaining? To be redeemed. That's the angel preaching at a year. Huh? That's the year. They were loosened at an hour, at a day, At a month? Now let's go to at a month. Go to Joel chapter 23. Joel chapter 23. Chapter 2, verse 23, sorry. The other way around. Joel 2, verse 23.
Verse 23.
Yes?
Be glad.
Be glad then.
You children of Zion.
Yeah?
And rejoice in the Lord your God.
Yeah?
For he hath given you the former rain moderately.
Yeah?
And he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain in the first month.
Yeah? And we know that the latter rain comes in the third month. The third month, because we have, the first month is Nisan or Abib, isn't it? Aya, yeah? Sivan, Tammuz. You can say all the 12 months in the Bible, isn't it? Yes. You have them, isn't it? Yes. So, the first month is the month of the Passover. Huh?
Yes.
Have you seen that there's a latter rain coming in the first month?
Yes.
But what about the third month? That's the day of Pentecost. Yes. Yeah. We have also a latter rain coming on the day of Pentecost. So people are arranged in categories. Mm-hmm. Those who receive the latter rain in the first month. You have to go back to the harvest rite to understand the symbolic service, so that you know how we are going to receive the latter rain.
Yes.
Each one in his own order. Yeah? Even in church, what do we have? We have teacher of teachers, isn't it? Are they all teachers? Teacher of teachers. Sabbath school. Teacher of teachers. Yeah? And then does that teacher of teachers learn together with the teachers? No. And then the teachers also have to learn, isn't it? And then the teachers have to teach the whole church, isn't it? Now, God has also arranged in that order, their system. There are people who will receive the latter rain in the first month, which is the month Abib, where the Passover is. And if you see what was being harvested at the first month they were harvesting barley. Yeah? And the third month they were not harvesting barley, it was wheat. You understand? All that was arranged according to the way that was a symbol of how we are going to be served. How we are going to receive the latter rain. Unless you study this Jewish economy, you won't even understand Revelation when he's talking about first fruits. He's back to the symbolic service. Second fruits. Yeah? All this is the harvest messages that God has given us. He gave the first angel's message, second angel's message, third angel's message. All is in color, is corresponding to the harvest rite. So we have to go back to the Old Testament and study and understand. If we can't, we can just say like the magicians in Nebuchadnezzar's time. This we cannot understand. It needs somebody who is inspired. Then do yourself a favor. Look for that person and study. Yeah? So we have seen the month. The latter rain comes when? Read it again. 2 verse 23.
Verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God. Mm-hmm. For he hath given you the former rain moderately.
Yeah?
And he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month.
In the first month. And when we saw the former rain coming in the day of Pentecost, remember day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2 verse 1, it came on the third month. And then in this time, we have the first month where the latter rain is received by those, a class of people who are the worship, who are the first of first fruits. Yeah? And who will also proclaim to the 144,000, so that the 144,000 are harvested. They should have a teacher, isn't it? The 144,000 have teachers, isn't it? They cannot just learn out of nowhere. They have a teacher. And the teachers will receive the latter rain in the first month. And then in the second month, in the third month, when the latter rain is received in verse 28. You see the verse 28 now? has the latter rain of the day of Pentecost. Let's read verse 20, Joel chapter 2, verse 28. Yes?
And it shall come to pass afterward.
Afterward. You see, it's after the first month when the latter rain has been received by those who are supposed to introduce the truth to the 144,000. Then afterwards, after the first month, then we are coming to the third month of the day of Pentecost. Yes. What happens?
And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh.
Right?
And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy.
It's now the day of Pentecost, where everyone, like, it's not everyone, it's 144,000 who receive the latter rain. Because why are they receiving that latter rain? It's empowerment to start preaching the gospel. Mm-hmm. Where? To the second fruits. Because the 144,000 are first fruits. Then they will proclaim the gospel to the second fruits in the church. Isn't it? And then after they finish, you see, those are all arranged in feasts. The first month is the Passover feast. The third month is the day of Pentecost. Yeah? And then we have the other feast, is the Feast of Tabernacle, which comes at the end of the year. That's when we have the second fruits from the church receiving also the latter rain. They now we have a close of probation on the 7th month. Day of Atonement is a close of probation for the second fruits. And then the gospel goes now to the Gentiles. Amen. You see, these are the orders. Yes. That's why God in Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16, read it. He has assigned these 3 feasts to be kept. Isn't it? Yes. Let's hear people keeping these 3 feasts. They are not even to be kept in your native land. They are to be kept in Jerusalem. Let's hear.
Verse 16.
Verse 16. Deuteronomy 16, verse 16, yeah?
3 times in a year.
Yes.
Shall all thy males appear before the Lord. Mm-hmm. In the place which he shall choose.
Right.
In the feast of unleavened bread.
Which is the first month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the feast of weeks.
Which is the day of Pentecost.
And in the feast of tabernacle.
Which is the third, which is the Feast of Tabernacle. And you see why they were arranged, the 3 ones. They are to do with the serving of first the teacher of teachers, first month, the 144,000, third month, and the second fruits in the church, 7th month. Perfect. Each one in his own order. That's what Paul is talking about in 1 Corinthians. He says each one in his own order, according to the harvest right. That's why God put all that harvest right in Leviticus to create a sample of how we are going to be saved. Yeah? And if you do not understand that harvest right, you will never even get to understand Revelation. Because Revelation is arranged according to the harvest right. Yeah? Now let's go back to the trumpet, 6th trumpet. We have seen that he has said, loose the 4 angels bound by the river Euphrates. And first we saw at an hour, William Miller, yeah? And at a day of vengeance of the Lord, isn't it? Or Malachi 4, verse 4 to 5, which is Elijah's message, with a message of the judgments and the statutes. And then we saw another one, loose at a year of my redeemed, Isaiah 63, verse 4, and at a month, which is the month of the latter rain. Perfect. All that is to remove the saints from the captivity in Babylon, bound by the river Euphrates. Yeah? Perfect symbols that God has given us. Take that literal, you won't even get the sense of it. These are trumpets arranged in symbols. And we will also understand by unlocking the symbols. But also, you have to start from the fat cows. The fat cows that Joseph interpreted are in the Old Testament. Yes. And the lean cows are in the New Testament. You cannot understand the New Testament without understanding the Old Testament. Yes. So that dream was very important. The one that Pharaoh dreamt of. Yeah? Fat cows, 7 of them. And lean ones, 7 of them. But the lean ones swallowed the fat ones. That was a symbol, isn't it? But it doesn't normally happen. So you have to interpret that dream, isn't it? And Joseph interpreted it. You are going to have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And he was a governor because of interpreting that dream. Huh? And he now collected corn for the 7 years so that the whole world ate from that corn in Egypt on the 7 years of famine. So you have to gather the corn of the Old Testament. Yeah?
Yes.
It's the 7 years of fatness. And when you are in the 7 years of leanness, which is the New Testament, you have to eat from the Old Testament. If you do not know anything from the Old Testament and you start with Revelation, I now want to understand, you can read it the whole of your lifetime. You won't even understand it. You can't understand it unless you understand. You go back. Sokerai kumatangiro. Evangeli lakudala. Give me the old-time religion first so that I understand the new religion. Yeah? So let's not remain in suspense. The whole Bible is there for us to read. And let's go to, have you finished the 6th trumpet?
But we were on verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day, and a month and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of man.
Right. So slay what? The 3rd part we saw. The 3rd part of them that refused all these messages. We know what will happen to them. What will happen to those who receive because Elijah's message is a sealing message, isn't it?
Yes.
And once we are not sealed, what happened? Is the 3rd part was destroyed. We saw it when we started with those who did not receive Noah's message. What happened to them? 3rd part was slain. And also in our time, 3rd part, if you are not loosened, you are not sealed by the seal of God, and you will receive 666. That's how you receive 666. Let's go to the next verse.
Verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I had the number of them.
Now, you see, the first rain, or the first month, we received the latter rain at the first month, isn't it? And then the 3rd month is the day of Pentecost. How many workers were there? 144,000. Now, as they preach, they produce second fruits from the church, isn't it? And then after second fruits from the church, we will have also a worship of those who are from the Gentile world. It's one of the tabernacles. We have the worship from those in the Gentile world, not from the house of God. And those are also receiving their latter rain, isn't it? In one of the tabernacles. And then on also the 9th month, you understand, they're all arranged in seasons. That's why things are done in their season. On the 9th month, it is their day of Pentecost. That's why we have that 9th month as a ceremonial Pentecost. What are we preaching? That the Gentile world will also have an antitype of the 144,000. You see the 144,000 in the 3rd month? And their antitype of 144,000 will be 200 million. Did you see the army? So the army will increase from 144,000 of servants of God to 200 million combined now with the Gentile world. That's why we have that number. People are concentrating on 144,000. What about 200 million? The army of those who have been sealed, of those who have received the latter rain from the day of Pentecost, from 144,000, when they now preach the message, go into the Gentile countries, to the isles, like Isaiah 66 told us, they will be sent where? To isles afar, to collect what? Gentile forces, isn't it? Now, these, when they are collected, they also have servants, like 144,000. And they join this army of people who are preaching to collect the people, to the forces to the kingdom in Jerusalem. You understand? And the army now will be 200 million. Read again that statement.
And the number of the army, the horsemen, were 200,000.
Right.
And I had the number of them.
John also said, I heard their number now. It was now in their ceremonial Pentecost from the Gentile forces. Combined with the 144,000, they become 200 million. All proclaiming the message of the Elijah's message. And the kingdom is increasing. And Christ would have already started the kingdom in Jerusalem. And the people are going to collect the Gentile forces into the Holy Land. That's when now the number 666 will be very, very powerful. Because when it goes to the Gentile countries, those four winds that were bound with the wind, they have already let them loose so that there is chaos in the world. Religious chaos. But look at the army. It went up to 200 million. Yeah? And because that test of 666 is not for the house of God. I can see people saying we are waiting for 666. Hey, far from it. When Michael shall stand, the house of God will be sealed already. Yeah? And those coming from Gentile forces are the ones in Revelation 7, verse 9. A greater multitude that no man can number. You see now, it's in accordance to the Bible. You understand? Yeah. And with the army also of 200 million, we have joined to be servants of God, preaching this message to the eyes afar, collecting them into the kingdom. These are the people who Christ said when he saw them, he put the sheep to the right and the goats to the left. This is how they enter into the kingdom when they are being collected. It will be years and years of that work. You are ready to hop in the cloud? Forget the cloud for now. It's years and years of collecting the Gentile forces into the kingdom. Yes. And there will be now 200 million people proclaiming this gospel. Increasing from 144,000 to 200 million. Let's see next. It's in the sixth trumpet. If you haven't read the sixth trumpet, then you are concentrating on your policy, on your creed, on your church policy, which hasn't gone to the sixth trumpet. So you have to find your way out of the policy. Come out of it. It should be including the trumpets and the seals. If it's not, then you have been bound in the river Euphrates. You can't escape. You can't come out. You remain in Babylon. Right.
We're in verse 16 now. And the number of the arm of the horsemen, 200,000, and I had the number of them.
Right.
And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone.
Now, did you see that when we started the sixth trumpet, it covers a lot of chapters. Yes. Now, while we are in the sixth trumpet, you find that it will also cover, it is going up to Revelation chapter 11, verse 14, isn't it? But you see all those chapters. We need to cover one by one. But it's important for you to know that it goes from where we started, Revelation chapter 9, to Revelation chapter 11, where we have the next war for the seventh trumpet. It's the next war. It's the last war. Revelation 11, verse 14 is the last war, isn't it? Yes. So all that is included in the sixth trumpet. For today, we will stay on the sixth trumpet. And when we start the seventh trumpet, someone will say, we are on the sixth trumpet, but the fifth trumpet is also part of us, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, we saw them slay those without the seal of God. It was in our time, isn't it? But You should know one thing. When a seal or a trumpet starts, it overlaps the others.
Yes.
Like with the seals. We started with Adam and Eve, told to multiply and replenish. Are we still doing that?
Yes.
So you see, it goes on until our time. Yes. And even the trumpets, when they started, they overlap.
Yes.
When the star came on the third trumpet, the star is the Bible. Are we still having it?
Yes.
So it overlaps other seals.
Yes.
And also all the seals, they go overlapping. And when Christ came and the Christians were started, isn't locusts, isn't it? It also is in our time, we are still Christians. So each trumpet goes overlapping other trumpets. You understand? And when we are going to start in Revelation, in the seventh trumpet, we will start with Revelation chapter 10 on our next lesson. Revelation chapter 10 will introduce the seventh trumpet. May God bless our